of the things that's essential in terms of our own strategy going forward in the region is we're going to have to continually counter Iran in the region. So having them at a negotiation table about Syria should not in any way convey the message that we're not going to counter them every single day in that region, very aggressively and successfully. But when it comes to Syria, just the very narrow question of what happens in that country, you've got to have the Russians and the Iranians at the table. They're the prime backers of Mr. Assad. But I think the precondition from our side, at least if I were making the rules of the negotiation table, would be we start from the premise that Assad will go. We don't know how he will go, but he cannot remain in power. And as long as they're willing to negotiate with that as an understanding, at least, if not a precondition, then they should be at the table. But it may not work because the Iranians and the Russians may not agree with that. If they don't agree with that, there's not going to be much of a negotiation because we cannot give on that fundamental principle. He has to go. But look, the Saudis, they've got to do more. They've got to do a lot more. We're talking about a double challenge here: resolving the conflict in Syria and defeating ISIS by way of a 60-nation coalition. And I believe the Saudis have to do a lot more on both topics. We're in a region where a lot of the nations in the region that have Sunni Muslim populations are not contributing fighters, are not taking any or very little in the way of refugees, in some cases zero. So I understand the point that the Saudis are making. They got to help us a lot more, I think, than they've helped of late. To solve one problem and prevail against ISIS, we're going to need a lot more help from the Saudis, in addition to other nations in the region that we're getting right now.